Everyone wants to be stronger, not just physically, but in every part of life. But between confusing workout advice, complicated equipment, and trying to figure out nutrition, where does anyone even start? Well, to get stronger mentally and physically, go to Anytime Fitness. You'll get a personalized training, nutrition, and recovery plan, all customized to your body, your strength level, and your goals. You'll get expert coaching to optimize your results, anytime, anywhere, in the gym and on the Anytime Fitness app. And you'll get anytime access to 5,500 gyms worldwide, all with the right equipment to level up your strength gains and your life. So get started at AnytimeFitness.com. That's AnytimeFitness.com.
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Raising Cane's studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Raising Cane studio downtown in the capital city on this Tuesday. Hope your work week's off to a good start. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Got Jordan Kitchens, Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. Loaded with some news today. It's the NFL trade deadline. We'll get to what the Saints have done thus far and what they may do moving forward here over the next 2 hours. Talk that in the next segment, as well as with Sharif Ishak coming up at 2:30. Glen West will be along in 30 minutes talking Tigers, our weekly discussion with Colin Jeter of the LSU Alumni Association, of course, former Tiger as well. So lots and lots to do. Let's lock us in here for the next couple of hours. We'll start it the way we do every day with our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's opening drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
All right, so I've talked a little bit about the situation with the coaching search and how we're going to discuss this over what's going to be a long month of November, right? Like, there's a football game to be played coming up on Saturday. There is a month of season left to go for these players, and for us to just go full speed ahead for a month and change on a coaching search is probably not the best use of our time. I'm here to discuss possible options. I'm here to give my opinion on this name or that name, but it's probably not going to be an everyday thing. I don't think we'll talk any coaching search Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of this week or Monday of next week. But as things come up, I'm going to discuss them at the appropriate time. And I want to be very, very clear that I'm a little bit dismissive of this myself, but it is in the news, so let's just discuss. I'm not here to tell you this is someone that LSU is actively pursuing. I'm not here to tell you this is a likely outcome. I'm just here to discuss a possibility and give my opinion on it, which I have at LouisianaSports.net, and I will here now. If you're here in Baton Rouge, if you're in Louisiana, it's probably likely at this point the name Nick Saban has showed up on your text messages between friends, has showed up in your discussions outside church on Sunday, showed up at the water cooler at the office. It certainly showed up on the internet today when Shaquille O'Neal told Us Weekly, I heard through the grapevine they were having conversations with Nick Saban. That'd be awesome if we can bring Nick back. That's what Shaq had to say. Shaq's got a pretty big voice. So the question becomes, like, is this reasonable? Not are they about to do this? Not is it a target? Not, is this a reasonable suggestion? And I've got some pretty clear thoughts on this. Nick Saban is the best college football coach that's ever lived. He came to LSU at the turn of the century, and he set up the golden era of LSU football. Then he made a mistake and went to the NFL, and he came back and made Alabama into a machine that I don't believe we'll ever see again in college football. He's the best. And unlike a lot of aging coaches who reach the top of the sport, Alabama did not really slip under Nick Saban. Keep in mind, at the end, 2 years ago, Nick Saban was in the national semifinal out in the Rose Bowl against Michigan and had a 7-point lead in that game with 2 minutes to go. They got that game to overtime, and Milroe couldn't score. But, like, the last game he coached was the national semifinal where he was 2 minutes from winning that thing. And, oh, by the way, the Michigan team that he lost to played Kalen DeBoer's Washington team a week later and beat them 34-13. So it never really slipped. And so I understand if there are people that want to look at this and go, I mean, yeah, go hire Nick Saban. Here's where I am on it. Nick Saban stepped away. He was not forced out, didn't lose a bunch of games and feel any pressure. He stepped away. And some of the things that he said after stepping away make this pretty clear to me. This is a quote from Nick Saban to Reese Davis after he stepped away from Alabama. To be honest, this last season was grueling. It really was a grind for us to come from where we started to where we got to. Took a little more out of me than usual. When people mentioned the health issue, it was really just the grind. Can you do this the way you want to? Can you do it the way you've always done it and be able to sustain it for the entire season? And if I couldn't make a commitment to do that in the future the way I think I have to do it, I thought maybe this was the right time based on those two sets of circumstances. So he said, it just took too much out of me to do this from August through January. I didn't think I could do it. That's coming from a guy who got his team to the national semifinal. But it's 2 years ago. He was 72 when he said that. He's 74 now. And then you look at this quote from Nick Saban. When I was young, I could be there until 2 o'clock in the morning, be there at 6 o'clock the next day, and feel full of energy to go do it. When I get a little older, it's a little tougher, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. Well, he's older then than he was now. And he's telling you 2 years ago, I can't operate the way that I feel like I need to. You look at what a college coach has to do. You get to campus. You've got to hire a staff. You've got to put together a personnel department. You've got to build relationships with high school players. You've got to recruit the transfer portal. You've got to re-recruit your own roster. You've got to manage the money in the collective and with the revenue sharing and make sure that each position is allocated the right funds. You've got to deal with disgruntled players who feel like they should deserve more. And if those people leave, you've got to replace them. You've got to deal with motivating boosters and raising money. You've got to deal with all of that before you ever blow a whistle at practice to develop players and devise game plans and watch tape. This is a grueling job. And yes, if Nick Saban were to come to LSU, he would have assistants lined up to come work for him. Yes, LSU's got a personnel department over there. He would be able to delegate some responsibilities, but it's just not the way he's ever worked. You just ran a guy out of town who was kind of delegating and stepping back. And I realize that Brian Kelly and Nick Saban aren't the same, but they were both kind of at the top of the sport 5-7 years ago. Consistently in the top 5, consistently competing toward the top of the sport. Nick Saban doesn't want to just delegate. He wants to be involved in every single thing that happens. Can you do that at 74, at 75, at 76? I realize you're not signing to a 10-year deal. You'd say, hey, make 3 runs at a championship here. Stabilize things. I get what the message would be, but he can't do it the way he wants to. And oh, by the way, there are other quotes that Nick gave after he stepped away. Like this, talking about paying high schoolers NIL deals. Now that's actually happening, he said. People are making deals with high school players to go to their school. It's not about coaching and developing as much as it is what kind of money can you make. Well, that hadn't changed at all. And he continued, it's great that players have the freedom to do what they want to do, but I also don't think we should create circumstances where they don't have to make the commitment and see things through. They don't have to make the commitment and see things through. They can look up in September, not like the depth chart, say, please redshirt me, I'm leaving. This is the landscape of college football. He doesn't like it. So not only is he 2 years older than when he said, I can't really do this at the level I want to, the rules that he didn't like and was outspoken against and spoke to Congress about changing haven't really changed that much. This doesn't feel like a fit to me. I am not here telling you that Nick Saban, if he took this job, would coast and Cadillac and run LSU into the ground. Like, LSU could do far worse than Nick Saban in this hiring cycle. Because if Nick Saban came to LSU, there's a pretty damn good chance that LSU would field a pretty good football team next year. Like, I feel pretty good about that. You would not get, in my opinion, the machine that Saban created in Tuscaloosa for 15 years. Your floor would be reasonably high, but your shelf life on that is almost zero, just almost nothing. Your floor, you go out and hire, and I'm using complete hypotheticals here just to make the point. Complete hypotheticals, no information. You hire Kenny Dillingham, you hire Clark Lee, you hire Eli Drinkwitz, you hire whoever, Georgia's defensive coordinator. Like, you could crash this car pretty quick. Like, they could come here and it just does not work at all. And I don't think you run that risk with Saban as much. But your upside on Saban, to me, is just not all that high, because I don't think you're getting the Nick Saban that we all think when that name pops into your brain. I would rather take the risk of going to get the guy in his 40s that might do this for 11 years, that might do this for 7 years. Because I don't think Nick Saban wants to do this. And you talk about, well, you can offer him $14 million. And you heard Saban on game day give the quote that I don't want Jimmy Sexton anywhere near Miss Terry because she starts seeing these numbers that are being thrown around and she gets interested. Well, I ain't interested, he said. And I just don't know how much I buy this. I understand that $14 million is $14 million, and that's a lot of money, and a lot of people like $14 million instead of not $14 million. But Nick Saban made well over $100 million in Tuscaloosa, and he's got a part in 9 car dealerships. I just don't think the Sabans are missing out on a lot of things because they can't quite foot the bill. Okay? So to me, like, I understand where this comes from, and I understand why there are some people that think it would be a great deal, and it's a great idea. I just don't see it that way. I think it's kind of an easy way out that isn't what you think it is. So if LSU were to put Nick Saban on the podium, I would go, all right, let's see how this goes. You wouldn't hear me saying, well, this is a disaster. What the heck are they doing? But I would also feel like your upside on it was pretty low because of the short shelf life. You're basically saying, okay, this guy's so good, so dominant, that he can come in at 80% of what he once was, and he'll just flip around the roster and get you a national championship in 2 years. That's ambitious. It's ambitious to me. So I'm not here to talk about Nick Saban all month long. This was the 10 minutes I was going to spend on Nick Saban here. Shaq's talking about it. There's rumors on the internet about it. People were buzzing Twitter about it. I'm going to address it here. Let's move on and talk about the reality of the situation. The reality of the situation is that the Saints have made a trade today, and they've got an hour and 40 minutes to make another one. Let's talk Saints trade deadline when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show. You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Man, it's a wild trade deadline day up in New York. The Jets unloaded Sauce Gardner to the Colts a little bit earlier, and just now have executed a trade with the Dallas Cowboys. They're sending Quinnen Williams, who's made a couple Pro Bowls for the Jets, to the Cowboys. They are loading up on draft capital there in New York, and looks like the Saints are attempting to do some of the same. They just don't quite have the assets, but the Saints have made one move today. They sent Rashid Shaheed to Seattle. They get a 4th-round pick and a 5th-round pick in 2026. So I want to put this in context with all of the moves that the Saints have made at wide receiver in the last few months, and then kind of talk about what this means with Shaheed and where the Saints are headed at the position. So it started with the Ja'Kai Polk trade. The Saints get Polk, who is out for the year, and a 2028 7th rounder. I'm glad they got a 7th round pick in 2028, but I can't really spend a lot of time on that today. But the Patriots got the Saints 2027 6th-round pick, which is another draft from now, 2 drafts from right now. So you get Polk, rookie, former 2nd-round pick, talents you like, potentially a guy you can insert in as a key piece to your passing game that is not playing right now and is out of sight, out of mind for most Saints fans. But he's there on the shelves. Then you go get Devon Vele. The Saints got Vele, who's under contract through the 2027 season. They sent Denver a 2026 4th-rounder, so this next draft, a 4th-round pick, and then in the following draft, a 7th-round pick in 2027. So you were out a 4th-round pick in this coming draft. You send Rashid Shaheed to Seattle, you get a pick back in that round. Now, it's going to be worse because the Saints pick in that round is going to be significantly higher than the Seahawks pick in that round, but you traded a 4th-rounder away, you got a 4th-rounder back. You also get a 5th-round pick. So now, as the Saints look at this draft coming up in 2026, the next draft, they've got their 1st-round pick, 2nd-round pick, 3rd-round pick, Seattle's 4th-round pick. They traded theirs away. They also have a 4th-round pick potentially coming if Isaac Yiadom doesn't meet his snap requirements, which the Saints are technically in control of. We'll see. So that would be a 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 2 4ths, 2 5ths now with the Shaheed pick, and a 6th-round pick. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 selections right now in this upcoming draft, and you part ways with Rashid Shaheed. I realize that Rashid Shaheed is a fan favorite. He's an exciting player. He makes big plays, and he is an asset on this team, and he's not overly old. He's 27 years old. However, this is how this works. The Saints, as we chronicled yesterday, as you're all very well aware in watching this team play, are nowhere near being a functional football team. Not even close. This is a line I used on yesterday's show. I find it to be true. They're not approaching league average at any position on the field. So you've got to get younger and cheaper. And Rashid Shaheed, at 27, entering his free agent year, like he is a free agent after this season, like is not getting younger or cheaper at all. And to get younger and cheaper, you've got to give assets. And the Saints don't have a lot of them. So you trade Rashid Shaheed off. He's going to be great in Seattle in Clint Kubiak's offense with one of the best receivers in the league in Jackson Smith and Jigba. Him playing the number 2, like he's going to be great there. And you got some draft capital. The point of this matter is not whether or not Mickey Loomis and Ireland and the whole crew up there can hit on these draft picks, because that's a whole different discussion. The only way you can do this is to get draft picks. So you have to give something of value to get value back. You can't get a 1st-round pick for Cesar Ruiz. You can't ship off Alvin Kamara for a 1st-round pick. Like, you have to give some value. Shaheed has value to get that value. And let's be frank. Like, do we think the Saints are going to be really good next year? I don't. So the older Rashid Shaheed gets, the more expensive he gets. He's not in your window. Rashid Shaheed's probably not in your window. It sucks, but it just is what it is. You need draft picks. And Rashid Shaheed nets draft picks. So now you look at the wide receiver room. I would be for the Saints trading Tris Olave. We'll see. They've picked up his option. We'll see if they extend him this year. But you've got Ja'Kai Polk coming. You now have snaps available for Devon Vele, who you inexplicably traded for with your draft capital that's so important, and then aren't putting on the field. So now you can, because Shaheed is not here. And you get a pick back for that. This is not a grand slam. It's not a home run, but it is the right thing to do. This is where the Saints are. And every time that phone rings between now and 3 o'clock, you've got an hour and 37 minutes. The Saints ought to be answering, and they ought to be in trade mode. Because there are very, very few pieces to that roster that I look at right this second and go, you really don't need to trade that player. I would say that about Kelvin Banks. I would suggest that about Taliesin Fuaga. I would probably say the same thing for Eric McCoy. And beyond that, and maybe Tyler Shuck, Kool-Aid McKinstry. I don't even know how to put Kool-Aid in that mix. Like, you really don't have anybody that's off limits. That's where you are. You need draft capital, you need picks, and you need to clear up money. And now the Saints not going to be on the hook for any sort of extension and long-term deal with Rashid Shaheed. You're going to pay his base salary. Seattle's going to pick up the bonus structure of that moving forward, and that comes off the books next year. And you're just going to have to continue to whittle that down. And eventually Cam Jordan comes off the books, and eventually DeMario Davis comes off the books, and Ramchick's coming off the books, and like Matthews come off the books, and you're going to start to clear up some of that money. It's going to take some time, but you got to do it. And then you've got to hit on these picks. They did a good job in this draft of making the selections. Like, not the players they got, actually using them instead of trading up to get one player. They used those picks, spread them out, and you're seeing some of these guys get to the field now. You're going to see some Devin Neal moving forward. You're seeing some Jonas Sanker right now. You're going to see Quincy Riley. Like, we'll see if they can get Vele on the field with the trade they made for him. Like, you're going to see some of these guys the rest of the season, not to mention Shuck, who's got the keys to the offense now. You're going to see Kelvin Banks. You're going to see Fuaga. And you hope. I'm not feeling great about what I've seen from those guys, but they're still very young, and you've got enough. You're getting picks here that you can use. But my sincere hope is over the next hour and a half that we see that the Saints have made some more moves. And quite frankly, the bigger the name, hopefully the better the return. There just aren't any guys on this team that are cornerstones. You just saw the New York Jets move off Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams. Now, their return was way better. The Jets got 2 first-round picks for Sauce Gardner, got another one for Quinnen Williams. But the Saints don't have any of those players. They don't have any mid-20s Pro Bowl guys. They just don't. Like Rashid Shaheed made it as a punt returner a couple years ago, and this is the best you can do. But they got a reasonable haul for him, and you're just got to stockpile that draft capital and then use it. I understand the Saints fans that are looking at this going, who cares about the draft capital? These guys can't make picks. And I understand that. We discussed this yesterday. The confidence level that you've got in this front office is right to be low. But maybe they can just hit like they did a few years ago in that draft that netted them some Pro Bowlers and an All-Pro, and that's your only hope. You have no hope if you stand pat with this roster. Extend Shaheed, extend Olave, you extended Kamara, and you extended Juwan Johnson. Like, you have no hope sticking with this group. There's a line in Angels in the outfield. You have to start trading them, all of them now. And that's how I feel about this Saints organization. They may need some divine intervention, and quite frankly, they've got the right team name to get that involved. The Angels can get it in that movie. Maybe the Saints can get it here. But not counting on divine intervention, let's go ahead and get some draft picks. And the Saints did that with Rashid Shaheed. So it's good for Shaheed. He goes to a great spot that I think he's really going to flourish in. And the Saints need to do more. Get more draft picks. If you get enough of them, if you get a 9, 10, 11 pick haul, maybe you can move up here and there to take a guy in the second round or in the third round that you want to move up for. And then you don't limit the amount of players that you're bringing in. You got to get as many lottery tickets as you can. And when the Saints were going into drafts with 5 draft picks and then trading 2 of them away to move up 6 spots in the first round, you're just not bringing enough guys. Bring in more guys. You hate to see Rashid Shaheed go because of how fun it is to watch him play. Fact of the matter is, he doesn't fit into the Saints window. The window's down the road. And the guys that fit into that window are playing college football right now. You've got to draft them. And the Saints did a good job here of going ahead and getting draft capital where they could get it. Did it with Marshawn Lattimore last year, doing it with Shaheed this year. Hopefully there's more to come in the next 90 minutes down in New Orleans. That's a look at the Saints. We'll do so with Sharif Ishak moving forward here on this Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Tuesday editions brought to you by Daryl Mays with RE/MAX. Daryl May with RE/MAX, looking to buy or sell a home here in Baton Rouge. Do it with a guy who's been in Baton Rouge his entire life. Daryl May, born and raised here, a Catholic High graduate. Daryl's also spent a lot of time in the building business, 2 decades. So he knows when he's representing you what you're looking for, what's a good build, what's a good property, who should you trust, and where should you maybe stay away from? And he can also help you sell that home as well. Daryl May with RE/MAX Properties brings you our Tuesday shows. When we come back, we'll chat with our guy Glen West. That's next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisofBatonRouge.com is the website. Every car that's on the lot is online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. Get behind the wheel of one of those GV80s. It's their midsize SUV, perfect size for that young family. So comfortable, stylish, sleek, elegant, and one of the safest cars on the road. Every model in the line is an IHS top safety pick. All of them. So you know when you're getting behind the wheel of a Genesis, you're getting behind the wheel of one of the safest cars on the road. Go by and see him airline at PQ. The facility's first class, and you know that line of vehicles is as well. Get America's best warranty when you drive off the lot, and know that you've got 3 years of complimentary scheduled maintenance coming your way as a Genesis driver. It's just part of being a part of a luxury brand at a reasonable price. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge, airline at PQ, and online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Tuesday shows brought to you by Daryl May at Remax Partners. Glen West joins us on Tuesdays, talking Tigers. Do so now. Joins us on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Glenn, how we doing?
Doing great, Hunt. Just glad to be talking some football now and getting back to the field. That's nice. Nice change of pace.
Yeah, it's an interesting week because this for so long was just the game that everybody pointed to. It just had a completely different vibe. You talked about it through the bye week and into game day, and I haven't even really gotten into LSU Bama just yet, and that's just a complete change of pace. But I guess it's just a product of where LSU is in its football program right now.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, look, you just named your university president about 20 minutes ago, and now I think the ball can really start to get rolling here on this coaching search. But look, in the meantime, here over the next month, LSU's got still something to play for. I think from a player perspective, whether that's playing for future portal interest, whether that's playing for future NFL draft interest, or playing for a spot on next year's roster. I think there's a lot that these players can individually accomplish, but I think it's going to take really this group coming together and playing as a team for them to be able to put out that good film here over the next 4 weeks.
Frank Wilson has been asked directly about Michael Van Buren twice. He hasn't brought it up independent of those questions. Do you feel like there's a significant chance that Michael Van Buren takes snaps this month?
I do. I think he'll get some opportunities. Look, I don't know that he'll be out there 5-10 times a game against Alabama on Saturday, but I do think if there's opportunity against Western Kentucky, if there's opportunity against Arkansas, to give him some extended looks, I think LSU will lean into that, and they probably should lean into that. I think they need to have as much of a sample size of him playing with this roster as you possibly can to kind of have a good evaluation on what kind of the future might look like with him at quarterback. And look, I understand it. Like the next head coach is going to have a huge say in what happens at the future of every position on the roster, but Michael Van Buren is still a young enough player to where if he develops the right way over the next couple of seasons, he could be in that mix for LSU next year if he decides to stay. So I would certainly love to see him in some short third down situations, some run situations in the red zone or down by the goal line. There's probably some creative ways that they can continue to utilize his mobility and skill set, but I think from an extended look perspective, the Western Kentucky game is the game that I'm circling for maybe some drives where he can produce.
I've got a follow-up coming, so all I need is a number from you here. But how many rushing attempts for LSU running backs do you think on Saturday?
I'm going to go 25.
Okay, we got 25. Divvy them up between the three guys.
I'm going to go Harlan Berry 12, Caden Durham 7, and let's see, do the
6
math
left
here. I guess Juwan Johnson 6.
Okay. You think that Harlan Berry will be LSU's lead back moving forward then?
I do. I think he's going to have more and more opportunities in this offense. I think he's proven that he is the most explosive back in this backfield, and that's not to shade Caden Durham at all. I mean, I think he can be useful in this offense going forward, but just watching Harlan these last couple weeks, you can tell he's really taken another step in his game, and I would imagine LSU really leans into him.
How do you feel about the offensive line? I said this on my show yesterday. I'm not even that embarrassed because I was writing about the A&M game and it felt more important at the time. I didn't even notice that Carius Curran got hurt. I learned that yesterday. So what do we think about what that looks like in the game on Saturday?
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I think whatever LSU is able to get out of Curran today and tomorrow in practice will give us maybe a little bit more of a clearer understanding. But if he's not able to go this weekend, I would imagine they continue to lean into DJ Chester at left tackle. I mean, Frank talked yesterday about potentially moving Weston Davis from right tackle to left tackle. I don't see who that benefits in any scenario. I think you just keep him where he is, and then DJ Chester is a guy that has some opportunities under his belt, some games under his belt, and I think he's playing out of position. I think he's more of a guard, but this is clearly the next best option when you're down both Tyree Adams and Carius Curran. You only have so many options that you can turn to, and Chester's always been kind of their Swiss Army knife this year. So I would imagine it's Chester if Curran can't go at left tackle.
All right, let's switch over to the defense. Ty Simpson's playing really good football for Alabama at this point. How do you feel LSU matches up in the air where Alabama does the majority of its work?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a huge game for the LSU secondary. I mean, that's breaking news, I know, but they have some really talented receivers, and Simpson is obviously playing at an elite level from just an efficiency standpoint and knowing where he wants to go with the ball and how he's directing this offense. I honestly think this is maybe a little bit of a better matchup on paper for this defense than Texas A&M or Vanderbilt, just because I think Simpson can run. I think he's got 187 yards rushing this year with when you take out the sack yards. But he's always going to be a guy that I think is looking to pass, and LSU's strength this year has been in its secondary, and so if Monster Delane, DJ Pickett, PJ Woodland can have some good games against some really explosive receivers like Ryan Williams and Jeremy Bernard, I think that's kind of their pathway towards success. You obviously want to see this front seven try to apply some pressure, but Alabama, I mean, for all that we've said about LSU and their rushing woes this year, Alabama has also had its struggles trying to get the run game going, and I think they certainly are going to look to pass more than run, and so there should be some opportunities to get some pressure and make some plays, but I think it's really going to come down to how the secondary performs against these receivers.
The pass rush for LSU has not been great this year. Now you're dealing with some pretty mobile quarterbacks, but I thought they would put up more sack numbers than they have. Do you feel like this is an opportunity to maybe go get a guy that doesn't move as well?
I do. I think that the thing that they've done with quarterbacks, whether it's Cade Klubnik or DJ Lagway earlier in the year, they may not have finished those plays, but they've at least gotten into the backfield and been able to disrupt them a little bit. And look, I think one of Ty Simpson's strengths as a quarterback is his maneuverability in the pocket. So he's a very composed player for a first-year starter. It's really impressive. But I do think LSU has some athletes to get after him a little bit and make him throw some incredible throws throughout the course of this game, or make him beat him with his arm. And so I think LSU is going to have an opportunity to get some pressure. Whether or not they're able to finish those plays, I'm with you. They haven't been able to do so as consistently as I thought, and certainly not over the last couple weeks. But that's an area here where I think LSU should certainly plan to have lots of dialed up pressures from Blake Baker to try to be as creative as possible.
What's your gut tell you about how it goes on Saturday?
Yeah, I don't know that I'm going to get to the 12 to 14 point range on this. I do think LSU, with the right mindset and the right focus, can keep it a little bit closer for a little bit longer in this game, especially if they're able to establish the run like they really want to this weekend. That's the other thing about Alabama's defense, is they haven't been great against the run either. And so if you're able to, have longer extended drives and kind of chew clock and make this kind of more of a possession game, I think that really benefits LSU in this one. And so I think that I think they'll probably hold it between 7 and 10 points, but I still think Bama's going to get the win at home.
You wrote a preview up at Go 24/7 about the LSU basketball team, which tips off tomorrow against Tarleton State. Give me a thumbnail or two on what you think about this team as they tip off tomorrow.
They better handle their business in non-conference because their conference schedule is absolutely loaded, and I know that's the case for every team across the SEC. But I mean, LSU's away schedule this year is absolutely brutal, and so I think they have to have a really strong non-conference schedule. They have a lot of opportunities here to kind of figure out their rotations over the next 5-6 games to really kind of figure out what they want, if it's an 8 or 9 man rotation, but. I think De'Don Thomas is going to have to fuel this thing and probably play 35, 36 minutes a game. I think he's one of the more, impressive creators on offense that we've seen at LSU really since Tremont Waters. And so I'll be really interested to see kind of how, that continues to kind of come together after a really impressive exhibition game and over these next 5 or 6 non-conference games in particular.
I wrote last year that I thought LSU would shoot the ball pretty well, and they ended up shooting it horrendously. Only Wake Forest was worse in the Power 4, Power 5, Power 6, whatever it is in basketball these days. I think it's Power 6 is what we're looking at, even though the Pac-12's gone. Whatever. They shot it really bad. Do you think this team is going to be any better?
I hope so. I can't say that, I know that for sure. I think they made it a strategy this year to go after some shooters. Markel Sutton, I think, should be able to shoot the ball well for them. Rashad King, Max McKinnon, Ron Zipper. These are all, wing players that are, have good touches around the 3-point arc and should be able to space the floor for a guy like Thomas. But, yeah, I think they're going to really try to do a lot of catch and shoot. This is not going to be an offense where you really are going to see a lot of guys going one-on-one, and that's I think where LSU has kind of gotten into a funk in the last couple of years. Is they've never really been able to find a rhythm in the half court, and I think De'Don Thomas is really going to help a lot of these guys set them up well to shoot at a high clip from catch and shoot range, and that's where I think a lot of their bread and butter is going to be as an offense.
He's Glen West, senior editor at Go 24/7, covering basketball, baseball, football. They're all in recruiting as well, and he's with us every Tuesday here on the Hunt Palmer Show. Thanks, Glenn.
All right, appreciate it, Hunt.
I'm going to talk a little about LSU's basketball team tomorrow as they get ready for Charleston State. I actually watched some of Charleston State last night. They played SMU. LSU, of course, plays Charleston State tomorrow. And then they play SMU in December in New Orleans. So I watched 15 minutes of the game. Neither team overly impressive. Not a ton of size on either team. They were up and down a little bit and scored some points. But LSU ought to be able to handle their business tomorrow. But I have some big picture thoughts on the team. I wrote a little preview over the weekend on LouisianaSports.net, and we'll talk about them tomorrow as they get ready to tip their season off. They'll start at 7:00 tomorrow at the PMAC. So tickets available if you want to go check out LSU on the hardwood. Tomorrow evening, I'll be writing about it over at LouisianaSports.net. LSU's got a president and a chancellor. We'll talk about both of those when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is the website. Jonathan Carbo and his team, phenomenal folks to work with in the insurance game. Been a quiet storm season here in South Louisiana along the Gulf Coast. We like it that way. But it's not always the case. You know that. So if you're looking at a renewal that's coming up, and you've never really paid much attention to why you have the rates that you have on your property policy, let the Highland Insurance Group take a look at it. They'll make sure that your building valuations are correct. They'll make sure you're not set to incur some co-insurance penalties so you don't get fully paid out on your claim. They'll let you know why your business interruption limit is what it is, and they'll make sure that everything reads properly. I know a lot of folks, and I know this from the time in the insurance business, just look at that premium at the end, close the book, and get the check signed. That's one way to do it, but you leave yourself susceptible to a lot of things if you don't know what your insurance program says. So if you're looking for a broker to get a second set of eyes on your policy to make sure that in the event of a loss, you're covered properly, the Highland Insurance Group can do that for you. It's Jonathan Carbo and his team right here in Baton Rouge. They can help you out statewide. They're online at HighlandIG.com. It's the Highland Insurance Group online at HighlandIG.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Wrapping up hour number one here. We're brought to you by Daryl May of RE/MAX Partners. Looking to buy or sell a home in the Baton Rouge area. Daryl May, happy to help you out with that. He brings you our Tuesday shows each and every week. News today, which we expected, is that LSU has appointed and announced a president of the university. Also, LSU has announced the chancellor of the university, which is interesting. I did not expect this and certainly wasn't deeply involved in it. This is not something that falls under my purview covering sports over here until it does. But as expected, you saw Wade Roos, the president of LSU, announced today he comes from McNeese, where he was serving in that role. And they also announced that Jim Dalton would become essentially the chancellor. So Roos is going to oversee the LSU system, which has multiple campuses, multiple outlets. And then you've got Dalton, who will essentially head up the Baton Rouge campus, main campus here. And how they do things day to day with the academics over at LSU, I'm certainly pulling for. Want nothing but great things for my alma mater, but not going to be something we discuss here. What we discuss here is how it impacts the athletic program, because we're a sports talk station. And so now, I told you last week on Friday, it was like, okay, you've now got a situation where you do not have a university president, you do not have an athletic director, and you do not have a football coach. That is significant unrest. It's not going to last very long, but it is. So now you've got a president. You've got Wade Roos, who is in place. He will be heavily involved, one would imagine, in selecting the athletic director as well as the next football coach. Stands to reason. President generally involved in those types of things. When Brian Kelly was hired to be the head coach at LSU, you see a picture of Brian Kelly holding the big jersey that has William Tate and Scott Woodward next to him. And so Verge Osbury, as we were told on Friday, has full authority and autonomy to go hire a football coach. And I believe Verge Osbury is still very much in charge of running that committee that he talked about last week. It's got a couple of Board of Supervisors members on it, and it's got Bo Bordelon on it, and it's got Ben Bordelon on it, and it's got Verge, and like they'll go attempt EJ Kuiper from FMOL. They'll go and interview candidates and go hire a coach. But now that Wade Roos is in place, he's going to have a say here. How big is that say? I'm not sure. And the other domino here is, how quickly does Roos get an athletic director in place? You do have a little bit of time here, where it's November the 4th. The full-on race to go hire a football coach is generally saved for the back end of November. Ed Ogeron and Brian Kelly were both hired in the last 4 days of November. You see early December hirings as well. And potentially this could get pushed back if LSU is aggressively targeting coaches who are coaching on December 19th and 20th in the college football playoff, coaching on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day in the college football playoff. But I don't know where athletic director falls on the to-do list of a newly appointed university president in Wade Roos. I'm not sure. I don't know what that looks like. That's above my pay grade. It's something that I'm confident he'll be asked in the coming days when he meets with the press. And I'm confident he will kind of deflect that answer and won't give you a definitive timeline, because why would you box yourself in? But as I said last week, generally speaking, you would like there to be a president, an athletic director, and then the athletic director goes and hires a football coach in that order. Because if you hire a football coach and then hire an AD, all of a sudden, that AD is not as wed to the football coach. And secondly, maybe you don't get the right football coach because that football coach doesn't know who his boss is going to be. It takes some time to get this thing aligned. And as I said on Friday of last week, great alignment, which LSU had, with John Bell Edwards and William Tate and Scott Woodward hiring Brian Kelly. Everything was in line there as well. And it didn't work. Everybody lost their jobs. So it doesn't assure anything, but it's just the way that, generally speaking, things are done. In any organization, you'd like the top to be settled as you work your way down. And you've got now president settled. Good or bad, it's settled. I don't have any opinion on Wade Roos as the president of LSU. I don't know much of what he did at McNeese, quite frankly, and don't know much of what he'll do at LSU. We're talking sports. Athletic director, football coach are to come. In what order? I'm not sure. How much input Roos will have on the football coach? I'm not sure. But you're adding cooks to the kitchen here as you go. Still early. There is time. But it does make this a very interesting search from the outside, because you're not exactly sure how much power folks are wielding. I listened to John Cohen talk over at Auburn yesterday, and he's like, look, I am the committee. I will talk to people. I'm going to take input. I'm going to have discussions. I will make this decision. That's not what you're getting at LSU. You're getting Virgil Osbury saying that I'm going to go get the best football coach, but he's hiring a committee that he's a part of, and now you've got a new president, and does the athletic director come in? And there are just a lot more moving pieces to what LSU is trying to get accomplished here. We'll see how it all shakes out. But Wade Roos from McNeese is now the president, and then you've got the chancellor, as well as it's the Baton Rouge campus provost and chancellor, Jim Dalton, who have been selected today, and they'll be approved by the Board of Supervisors here. So that's your future at the top of LSU. All right, moving right along here on a Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. That's a lot in hour number one. Should LSU call Nick Saban? Should they hire Nick Saban? I gave you my thoughts at the top of the show. The Saints continue to try to make some moves here at the trade deadline. They got an hour and 5 minutes to go. They've traded Rashid Shaheed. I gave you my thoughts on that. You can find it at Hunt on Saints, and we'll see over the next hour if they do anything else. We'll keep our fingers on that pulse. If you missed any of that, you can catch it on demand at the Hunt Palmer Show, wherever you find your sound. We're going to pause for SportsCenter, and a lot to do in hour number two. Colin Jeter from the LSU Alumni Association, former Tiger, is going to be with us here coming up in 5 minutes to discuss all things LSU football. We'll talk Saints trade deadline with Sharif Ishak from WDSU at the bottom of the hour. I've also want to get to some LSU offensive line talk as well in the second hour. So plenty to do on a fast-moving show. I hope your work week's off to a good start. Again, we'll pause for SportsCenter, get some national headlines, which will be Jet-centric, I would think, and back with more of the Hunt Palmer Show next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.